and we'll start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item on the agenda, I'll open the public hearing to vacate a right-of-way. Is there anyone here who would like to speak vacation? Mr. Hoffmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I represent Kim and Todd Shepard. We filed the petition to vacate for a tract of what's known as Crescent Avenue. It dead ends at my client's property, Crescent Avenue. I'm sorry, I was actually addressing these folks, but it is a public hearing. So I've gone ahead and printed a GIS notation of the approximate location of this.
Thank you.
So that you can see what we are talking about. I've also provided council with a survey that we had made done. What had happened was there had been discussions between Mr. and Mrs. Shepard, my client, Katie Fry, and Brad Allen, as to my clients not wanting trucks to turn around on their property anymore. So you can see this dead ends, but it's that 25-foot right of way. It's no wider than that. And that's where county trucks are turning. They can't turn around in the parameters of that, so it tends to involve client's property. So what had been discussed was moving that turnaround up to the area that you see now, where it says proposed turnaround on this GIS map, which is also property that's owned by my clients, but it's not right up where their grandkids and children and animals are going to be. Would also save the county the cost of having to pave and maintain that street that basically is effectively my client's driveway leading to a turnaround area. We have complied with both state law and with the local ordinance. There were title history that was done. This is clearly a county right of way. We do not believe that it will hinder. I'm reading now from statute, copy of which I had already provided to council. For the commissioners. These are the bases for objecting to a vacation of right of way. One would be that it would hinder growth or orderly development of the unit or the neighborhood. This dead ends and it's not going to go anywhere else. That it would make access to lands of anyone who is aggrieved more difficult or inconvenient. Again, this road leads nowhere except my client's garage. The vacation would hinder the public's access to a church, school, or other public building. Again, it doesn't. And then that would hinder use of a public way by the neighborhood in which it is contiguous. Again, there is this dead ends. It's not connected to any other public way. So this is I know that you will rely on council, but this is a discretionary decision for you to make whether or not this is something that you think is advisable or not. I think it could save the county money. It's my understanding that in addition to the swap of property basically that was envisioned here, that there had also been discussions about the Shepherds actually providing materials and basically helping construct the turnaround in the area that's shown as the proposed turnaround area, so that it would not be just on the land or the ground, just kind of where it is right now for the client's purposes. Beyond that, we believe this is in the county's best interest. We don't think that it serves any purpose to continue to pave or maintain that road or down that path. My clients own both sides of it, and therefore, if the county would vacate its interest, the title would default back to the presumptive owner of the fee, which would be the owners of the two sides of that, which in this case is both are owned by my clients. So my clients are here today, and they are available to answer any questions that you might have regarding that. But that's all I have, unless you have some questions of me.
I have none. Tiffany, can you bring up the beacon and pull this property up and have the right-of-way lines on there? Please. Where's Nathan? Nathan in here. And then this is over there.
Let's see.
Hey, Nathan. You're way better at.
While they're doing that, Greg.
Yes.
On this proposed turnaround,
Mhm.
we believe there should be enough room there for a truck to turn around when doing snow removal or deliveries or garbage pickup or any of those things.
That is my understanding. Now, again, that was negotiated and stepped off. I think Brad was, again, I was not personally involved with that. Certainly my client addressed that, but it was my understanding that Katie and Brad were both involved with stepping that up to make sure that that was adequate. I'm checking my file right now to see if I have a printed copy of the survey that I know is in my digital file. And I know that I sent to Attorney Shipman that demonstrates where that right of way falls. Matt, you didn't have to print that off too, did you?
No, I didn't, no, and I had the legal for the dedicated parcel, but I didn't see the diagram to know what that looked like.
You have to have one of
To
those.
to Chad's question, what the dimensions looked like.
Thank you, sir. Here's the parcel indicated.
It's kind of it's not a roundabout, it's more of like a three-way turnabout.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just made it turn. Three-way turnabout. I, I haven't seen that. That would be a Brad question as to whether or not that. Ryan, have you seen it? Would you be able to?
I have seen two different drawings, one that Brad did, one that I'm not sure he did all three. I believe the one that Brad did, gives us a little more room as highway department to use that turnaround. The other one is questionable, reliability. Multiple drivers. Somehow they were trying to also concern.
There's a large utility pole, right, where this proposed turnaround would be. Have they talked to the utility company about how that would be impacted?
I don't have
Mr. Shepherd.
with Brad and Katie, that would not have to be moved. You have to stay 5 feet from that pole. So basically, the right of way will go right to that pole. So the road gets a little bit wider. And the turnaround was discussed when Katie and Brad actually physically came out and we took dimensions to make sure that they could have enough room to pull the trucks, push the snow into our yard, and then 3-pointer back turn and have the width of the road and the turn to accommodate their trucks.
Are you wanting to put a gate up?
Pardon me?
Are you wanting to put a gate up?
Possibly. don't know that that's critical right now. We want to stop the traffic that's coming down there from semis to trucks with trailers. It's a dead end road. It should say, or it says dead end at the beginning. We have people that drive past the garage, want to go around their garage, use the facilities beside the garage. There's a lot of reasons besides semis coming down there that should not be down there in the first place. So we want to protect our property, protect people from coming into our property where we have.
So if you did put a gate up, would it be right where the property line starts?
It couldn't be.
Okay. Where would it,
County rules.
where would it be?
It would be back inside of the property, past the potential proposed vacation.
So how many feet back were you thinking? I don't have the,
10 feet.
Nathan, do you know the rule?
Fences in the county, as long as it's outside the right of way and the floodplain, we don't have any regulations.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Shepherd, or
I have none.
is there anyone else here today who would like to speak for or against? Yes, ma'am, come forward, introduce yourself, please, for the minutes.
I'm Terry Parker, and I'm the neighbor to where the vacate would be. My husband and I, Brad, had a remonstrance drawn up. I believe I emailed each one of you that we had several neighbors sign it. Those are my main concerns on that. As far as petition states that no one uses the road other than the shepherds in the county. That is a false statement. People use this road continually to joyride, look at properties, to go down, see what's happening down the road. Some might miss a neighbor's driveway, have to go down to the end, turn around, come back. I have several pictures of people doing that. I also have pictures of how the shepherds are trying to discourage that right now. They posted no trespassing signs, no turnaround at the edge of our property, so people are backing into our driveway. It's confusing people. I have several pictures of that if you'd like to see. Also, this would definitely prevent us from backing a trailer into our driveway. We just built a new home. It's had a large driveway made. We have 2 full-size trucks, an SUV, a boat, a 16-foot trailer that we plan on using for landscaping. If we were not to go on further down the road and back in, that's obstructing us from entering our property or backing out. Same thing. I have several points I wanted to make. Have you all read the remonstrance?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. The Shepherds purchased that home knowing it was a dead end. Now they're trying to make their problem our problem. The dead end will be at our property now. Again, we built this home not knowing this. So had I known, I probably would have flip-flopped our house so our driveway was different, so that we could back out of our garages. Another question I did have is the Shepherds claim that there's extra asphalt on the sides of the road. Who did that? Did the county pay that?
I don't have any idea.
I mean, was that an understanding that the county could use it if they did pay it? That's a question I have.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry. We can certainly look into that, find out. Where is the excess asphalt? Where is the extra,
On the Shepherd's property, like
kind of at the
on
end?
the sides of the road. So that it looks like a bigger turnaround. I realize the road might only be 25 foot, but it looks like it's bigger because of the asphalt. I believe a car can turn around up there in 25 foot. They're giving, the new proposal is showing 25 foot. What's the difference? Why are they moving it from there to in front of our home? There's several times that they park on the road to obstruct the road. So people, the garbage trucks are backing down our road if we can't turn around. So yes, a new turnaround would be great if it was a cul-de-sac, if it was large enough. This would alleviate the garbage trucks from having to back down the road. It would make it way less dangerous. Also, a snow plow is 33 foot. How is a snow plow going to plow snow and then back into that 25 foot? I've talked to a snow plow driver. We used to have this route and he said it would be difficult. Not get stuck to even to plow the snow. I do have Brad Allen's first drawing, and it is completely different than the new proposed. I have it right here. If you want a copy.
Yeah, that would be great.
Moving into a new home, just recently, I'm very unorganized. Haven't had time to,
How long have you lived in your residence?
3 weeks.
Oh, wow, okay, so yes, there you go.
And I did ask how it came from that to the new. And there's a question as, the county had mentioned that there was a possibility of them putting a building behind that new hole in. And maybe that's why the Brad Allen's first drawing probably didn't allow for that. And if that does happen, there's concern that they'll be using that hole in with their vehicles as they are now. They do it now, what's going to stop them from using the new one? And placing boulders around it to make it very difficult for people to back in and turn around.
Great questions. I think we have some
So,
more digging to do.
have you spoken to your neighbors about any of your concerns? You haven't sat down with them? Have they tried to contact you or?
And that was another thing, we were the only ones notified of this. So I don't know why the whole road wasn't notified.
Is it just adjoining landowners?
Yes, that's what the statute says.
Even though there's going to be a new turnaround right next to John Workman's. Like on his property line.
So the part that's being vacated is what triggers the notice, not the new one.
I think I hit everything.
Any questions? None. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Thank you. I am Randall Keller. I am a neighbor just to the west of Terry who just spoke. And I'm also the adjoining neighbor to the north of the proposed back-in. I've been a resident of 2905 East Crescent Avenue for long enough, just like my wedding, about 24 years or so. The previous owner to Shepherd's, Kermers, there was, and I consider there is a turnaround there. There always has been 24 years. The turnaround was to the north. So that is, when I purchased property, there was a turn. There is a turn. When the county repaved the roads here about 4 or 5 years ago, time flies. What Terry had mentioned was that the turnaround was actually extended. And my understanding was at the behest of the Shepherds, and it was extended to the south. And also the mailbox was moved to represent that extended turnaround. So my understanding is when you move a federal mailbox, you are indeed acknowledging that as the new dimension of the road. So I'm making two statements. One is that it was never 25 feet at the end. It was greater. And the turnaround turned to the left, to the north. And then when the road was paved, here in the last 5 years, at the behest of the Shepherds, the turnaround was extended to the south. It's actually a fairly decent sized turnaround status quo. So I am against the Shepherd's proposal because the turnaround as it exists is an actual turnaround. The proposal is some half-baked 20-foot back in that now means people are going to be driving on right in front of me to do a turnaround. And then 3, I did go in and talk with Katie Fry when I saw some markings in the road across there about 2 months ago. And the visual that I saw on her TV, she brought up the same look that you had, was indeed what Terry had submitted to you, or closer to that than what is submitted here. So what was submitted to Katie Fry was not a 20-foot back, period. I'd also like to state that my understanding is there's rumblings with the 2 neighbors at the end of the road with the amount of traffic with new construction. I have been working from home for quite some time now. I have myself, I have my wife, I have 2 young workers, 20 and 18. And I'm telling you, the contractor, general contractor, and subcontractors that have backed all the way up and down that road, no, I haven't seen people turn around except maybe a pickup truck. I've not seen major equipment turn around. Those contractors have been exemplary. There's no one in my family that's been held up. I walk the dog twice a day religiously. That road has been open. We have a first responder on our road. People are aware of that. Our road's been open. The contractors have been exemplary. Fred, Terry, my neighbors have been exemplary. So again, I'd like to summarize status quo. I don't consider this a legitimate proposal whatsoever. As I signed the remonstrance petition, part of that, we proposed a legitimate turnaround, which is a cul-de-sac turnaround to the south at the end of the road. And finally, I forgot to mention that part of the reason there's probably been a half turnaround for 25 years plus is that Kermers built their garage into the road. So the road goes into part of that garage already. So if we want to be technical, you've got a garage on top of the road to begin with. So probably part of what happens in the lakes is, people take all that into consideration. The garage is there, it's not hurting anybody. We got a little park turnaround. Everyone goes around their day. We're neighbors, and that's the way I'd like it to continue. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Sir, have you spoken to your neighbors about this and about your concerns? Okay, have they reached out to you to
No.
speak to you? Okay. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
I'm John Workman. I live on the property directly west of the proposed turnaround on the same side of the road. I've never been officially contacted with anything to do. I'm here by word of grapevine. I don't know. It's just by what the neighbors have told me what's going on. I didn't know who was supposed to contact or if there was supposed to be a public notice or anything. Yes, there needs to be a turnaround at the end of Crescent Avenue. What happens a lot, and I'm living the last couple summers especially, is there's been no parking, no turnaround sign put up at the end of the street. It's got a lot of vehicles parked on it from the occupants at the end of the street. A lot of fishermen miss, they turn too early going to the public access. And if you looked at the beacon, you know, I had a pretty odd shaped driveway. I drive a school bus. So I'm just on my own, 25 years ago, put my own driveway in to turn my school bus around. It's 43 foot long. That way I wasn't going at the end of the road bothering anybody. I didn't have the hassle of, if I was on a sports trip and came home later in the evening, and they had company, they had somebody parked on it, not my problem. I made my own turnaround. What's happening is my turnaround has become the public turnaround. Okay. If you look at the GIS, you'll see a garage with a camper setting on the end of it, on the east end. I have had vehicles with trailers tore down in my yard beside my camper. You can see on there. As you come into my property, what I do with the bus is swing to the, come into the right. You see the thumb sticking up towards Crescent Avenue. I nose up here with my bus, backed it down towards where where you see a truck and a camper setting. I swing back out, then I actually park it somewhat parallel with Crescent Avenue. Then I can use my driveway with my personal vehicles in and out. If I have company, no problem, I have plenty to park. And when I leave with the bus, I just simply exit back out onto the road. It's out of my way, it's out of everybody's way. But you know, I spent a lot of money putting my own turnaround in, just being a good neighbor. Now it's really getting used. And then where the camper is setting, I've had a number of times, guys with trailers, boats, not the best backers in the world, end up in the yard. To where I've had to go out here and help them. And my grandkids have been out there. So we need to do something, but it needs to be a turnaround big enough to handle, you know, what comes down the street. And it's your UPS to garbage recycle. You get a lot of boats, a lot of fishermen. I am one. They'll come down Crescent to turn around and look to see what the lake looks like. Is it real windy or how's the wind or how many boats are out there and such. But now that here in the last couple of years, the end of the road has pretty well been claimed already. I'm living the nightmare of not being a legitimate public turnaround. And that needs to end. Or I feel like I need the county to start paying me. One or the other. So as far as the turnaround being paved, I've lived, born and bred Dry Lakes. I've lived on Crescent Avenue 42 years. I rode a school bus and went up here and turned around on that when it was a chip and seal turnaround. As far as I know, it's been there for probably since the 50s. The turnaround has been that wide area. Like I said, you know, to keep peace with the neighbors and everything, I just put my own in. We do need to get something that's substantial that everybody can live with. It just problem resolved. So my driveway becomes my own driveway again. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Greg?
Thank you. Clearly appreciate the neighbors' concerns. I think they seem to have broken down into sometimes the turnaround isn't needed. There's not that much traffic versus there's bunches of traffic and there's a need to turn around and it's really a pain when people that, so. And the 25-foot either is plenty of space or not enough space, but the bottom line is it's a 25. It is not more than. So the last speaker, I think, captured a lot of the frustration that my clients have, which is it is just 25 feet. If it's been paved outside of the right of way, it's been paved outside of the right of way. 25 feet is all the county has access to. That's why when they entered into this discussion with county officials, they were trying to get an alternate turnaround area. So the last speaker spoke, basically voiced the exact frustrations that my clients have encountered, which is, yes, there's going to be a turnaround somewhere. That's why this was discussed as a swap. And actually to dedicate, and the package includes a dedication to turn property over. I've not seen the remonstrance paperwork, so I can't address those points. I understand, and I hope everybody else understands, those are public documents, and I am making a request for them. As well as the other drawing, all I have seen is the certified survey. I'd love to look at what the other drawing was that was supposedly the original drawing that Mr. Allen had.
Didn't have my copy.
It's distinguished. But again, I'm going to ask the commissioners to be very aware of what the statute says. This is, most of the complaints have been, they should have to deal with the right of way or with the turnaround because it's been down there. And they bought the house with it being used as a turnaround. The 25-foot right of way ends in their garage. That is correct. There's not space outside of it. I have advised my clients that if this is not granted, if they have concerns about the safety of their family, that they can put bollards or rocks right outside the right of way. There is nothing to prevent that from happening, to effectively no longer make that a turnaround. That's well within their rights. You're welcome to consult with counsel. They won't touch the right of way. They've had it surveyed. They know exactly where that 25-foot right of way is. But hopefully we can get something where a turnaround is placed there. It's going to have to be around somebody. Hopefully it won't be right at somebody's garage. And we try to give some additional space to widen that. Similar to that, it was the one that was submitted with the survey. So those were the only points I have. I know this is in your sound discretion to make a decision, but I just wanted to clarify that, frankly, echo some of those points. But keep in mind, the statute gives you guidance as to what proper bases for remonstrance are. And I will leave it to your good offices to determine whether the complaints that have been made here today constitute those sort of bases. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we've heard a lot. We have a lot to consider. Do either of you have anything you'd like to add before we close the public hearing?
Mr. Shepherd, I'm not sure where you're at. So if the big issue is the public using your driveway, if your neighbors needed to use it, would you be a good neighbor and let them use it? For instance, your new neighbor,
Driveway.
like if she needed to pull her trailer in and whatnot, the things that she
When people
had.
ask in advance, I've never had a problem whether it's fishermen, ice fishing, and what have you. The problem is people just do it. So when people say that nobody comes down there and turns around, I literally had during their process of loading their home, semi-trucks, 60-foot semi-trucks turning around physically in my yard. So that's just one issue. So yeah, people ask nicely, we want to use it for a particular turnaround, but where we proposed the turnaround, we had Brad and Katie out to determine those the dimensions, what it had to be for their trucks to be able to turn around. So they came up with that. I submitted an initial drawing. I think Brad was updated that drawing to their specs. It was all agreed upon. They supplied materials. I'll do the work and I'll pay for the asphalt. So that was proposed to give them a turnaround. So everybody has a turnaround with garbage trucks, UPS, semis, whatever. So that's what was proposed.
But is the one that was proposed, I'm sorry, the first neighbor that spoke,
Mr. Parker?
have you seen the drawing? Could you use it and get your things in and out with what they've proposed, or is that not?
No, I would not be, not on either drawing.
Okay,
There isn't enough room across the road for us to be able to back a 16-foot trailer in.
This is their driveways right here. This is all asphalt across from the driveway. So they're actually gaining.
I can tell you that what's on the beacon was our old home, so you're not seeing the new drawing or the new picture of our current home. And again, we will be using our trailer a lot to landscaping and different things. Possibly might have to park our pontoon on our drive. How are we gonna go forward and back into our driveway, get off the road?
is that making sense what she's saying?
Just like everybody else does.
The road
Everybody
doesn't
else
end.
has a road access.
The road doesn't end at our property line right now. It will if this goes through, which will prevent us. What the petition states is that it would not hinder anyone next to from entering or exiting their property. We have grandchildren as well, 5 of them. Why does the new turnaround have to be in front of our house instead of theirs? This is for personal gain for them to be able to use that whole area, which I understand, I get their pain, but why is the pain gotta go to me now?
Thank you both. I appreciate everyone that's spoken. I think I'm gonna take a little field trip down to Crescent Avenue now.
Right here's a picture of the.
I wanna go see it.
Okay, well, at this time, we will close the public hearing portion of our meeting for the vacation of a right-of-way. And the next item on our agenda today is employee recognition. We have, we like to recognize our valuable employees who've hit milestones with the amount of time that they've been here. Very little, sweet, probably beautiful. Rob, Lauren, an all-star. We have April Clear hitting 10 years. Is April here today? We'll make sure she gets this. And Kara Geis for another 10-year milestone. Is Kara here? Okay.
Okay, I've got Janie Hatton for 10 years. Carly Knock for 10 years.
And I have Mark Burkett for 15 years. Thank
We
you.
appreciate everyone. We appreciate our employees and the county appreciates you and we just want to celebrate in that 10-year milestone. The next item on our agenda is a scholarship. David, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Commissioner, for allowing me to be here today. My name is David Bauer. I'm Executive Director of the Association of Buchanan Counties. And really proud to be here today. We have a scholarship program that we partner with SRI, which is a tax sale company. And we hand out $400 or $500 scholarships a year. And the reason this program started was because Jim Hughes, who started SRI Corporation, came to me one day and said, David, I send out holiday cards to commissioners, council, auditors, treasurers. It costs me a couple $1,000. How can I use that money better to benefit county government? So we came up with a scholarship program where children or grandchildren of county officials or county employees are eligible to earn this scholarship. Again, one of them is here with us today. His name's Alexander Hamilton. And Alexander attended Eagle Tech Academy. And he's going to go to Manchester University next year. And his essay he wrote for us, I thought showed great attitude of perseverance, because when he was a freshman in high school, he was on the wrestling team and had an injury that prevented him from continuing to wrestle. So he and some others at the school started an esports program, which if you know anything about esports, that's nationally recognized now. There's national contests, and it's really is an innovative way for people to participate in sport activities. So before we have Alexander come up, I wanted to introduce Julie Foss with SRI. And if Julie wants to have a few comments.
I would. Good afternoon, and thank you, Commissioner Banks. Thank you, Commissioner Basinger, and thank you, Commissioner Schuman, for having us here today and allowing us to present this. And as David indicated, SRI has been a long proponent of this scholarship for the employees and members of AIC, and it was with great respect. And honestly, Jim Hughes this morning indicated to me that his mother was the big proponent of this scholarship. So that was kind of nice to know. And they really like the, the employees getting out of county government, the ones who work.
We can do this right here. Maybe just as, maybe so the monitor's not behind us, maybe just do it this angle right here.
Yeah, do you want us out of the way or?
Oh, no, no, no. Oh, yeah.
I think that would be good.
That'd be great. He was such a hard worker on the contract. We could do this afterwards.
I'm going to slide this over. if
Oh,
That's
yeah.
okay. Do you mind?
Yeah, here, right behind
Talk me out.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you for.
Yeah.
having us.
Thanks for having us do
Thank you
this.
for coming.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Peter.
that. Thank you.
Okay, so next item on the agenda is Brad, but he's out sick, right? So Ryan, we get Ryan instead. Love it.
Brad is under the weather. I'm Ryan Getz, the Highway Director for Woodley County. And speaking with Brad earlier today, and I guess the consensus that E&B paving being the lowest and responsible bidder, with utilizing them for the community crossing matching grant pavement project here in Woodley County. Yeah, that's what I've got. You guys need to see the spreadsheet. I think you've all probably already seen it.
I think we've seen it.
They were considerably, the bid was considerably more competitive. They've done work for us in the past and have been awarded bids, and we're comfortable with them doing the work this year.
Okay, commissioners?
No questions?
You just need a motion accepting that E&B paving. I'll make a motion to accept E&B paving as the community crossings bid winner.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Anything further? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. And opposed, the same, and that passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Scott Wagner with our Health Department.
Good afternoon. As discussed earlier, with legislation changing in July for health board nominations, there's a different route that we have to take. As you have seen in statute, commissioners have the right to appoint 6 of the 7 health board members, no more than 4 of one party, and also 1 being chosen by a nomination of 3 from the mayor. And then the county council would do the last vote for that health board nomination. I've sent to you the existing members on the board, as well as the mayor's nominations. And if you wish to, at this time, nominate those 6 people, or whatever you be, I will be heading to council tomorrow to confirm their nominations. Any questions from me?
I have none.
How would you like to move forward?
After looking at the nominations from the mayor and the people that are currently on there, I think everyone on there right now does a very good job. I think they're engaged. So I would make a motion to accept the current sitting members and also to keep their terms as they sit right now, rather than starting them from today or however.
Second.
I think we would need to name them
Correct, 6 of them.
because there's 1 member who's currently serving who will need to be either reappointed or replaced by county council. So I think we need to name those members who we wish to reappoint.
Do you want their ending term as well?
Yes, I prefer that you keep their terms as is. If you would,
Okay.
please.
I would nominate Michael Mayhorter. He's a Democrat. His term ends 12/31/23. Russell Gilliam, Republican, and if his term is 12/31/24. David Leave, he's a Republican, and if his term is 12/31/24. Robert Sossaman, he is a Republican. His term ends 12/31/25. Grace Lauder, she is a Democrat. Her term ends 12/31/25. Carrie Crawford, she's a Republican. Her term ends 12/31/27. And Amy Sadler, she is a Democrat, and her term ends 12/31/27. And I will note that we cannot, you can only have 4 Republicans or 4 Democrats. You can't have all Republicans or all Democrats, if that makes sense. So there's got to be a mix. So
I think you might need to amend your motion though to drop that last name, because that would be a council reappointment. Am I correct?
Right, commissioners under the statute can vote for 6 of those 7.
There are 7 there, so I think we need to leave 1 for council to either reappoint or replace.
Probably should specifically so say that Grace Lauder is one of the mayor's 3 nominations that you're
yes,
picking.
I guess, can we open it for discussion on if either of you 2 would have a recommendation on who to leave?
Well, I would be comfortable with Mayor Ryan Daniels' recommendation of Grace Lauder to us and reappointing her.
And leaving off
And so then
Dr.
that would
Sadler.
leave Dr. Sadler for council to make their own decision based on the new rules. The state just loves to make things a little more complicated for us than what they need to be. And I see AIC smiling here in the corner as he knows.
I'll amend my motion to leave off Dr. Amy Sadler.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, the same, and that passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. I know that's been kind of a tricky thing for you to navigate, so I get it. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a discussion about real estate appraisal. So I'm just going to throw it out there, just full disclosure, transparency. We have an opportunity to acquire land that would allow for an additional entrance to the jail. In order for us to purchase land, we have to have at least 2 appraisals. And it would be our responsibility to get those appraisals for a number of reasons, but mainly because we've approached that landowner. They're willing to sit down and have a discussion with us. But we have to have those appraisals for somewhere to start. Matt was instrumental in opening the door in early negotiations. You had made the, I forget what we call that, but it was basically like a proposal or a letter of interest from the county.
Oh, that's who, yeah.
Yeah, and so Councilman Kim Wheeler has had an active role in those discussions from the very beginning. Personally, I would like to see us keep moving that needle forward. And so I would be in favor of getting some appraisals so that we can move on to our next steps in the discussion with said landowner.
So I think I would respectfully have to disagree. Former Sheriff Gatton, he indicated that he did not need a second entrance. Sheriff Spencer indicated that he also does not need a second entrance. Currently, we can put another pole barn up or some type of garage without adding a second entrance. Personally, I would like to not have to build another building over there and keep government where it's at. I know community corrections, that building is quite old. The plan is to update it and get it up to standards that the building can be utilized for another 15 to 20 years. We're unfortunately went over on what we wanted to spend on the jail, and we're currently $1 million over with our proposed budget, so we have to also cut that. So I just don't think it's fiscally responsible. And looking out, we don't know what's going to happen in 15 to 20 years. We don't know what type of legislation is going to happen, if we would need to move community corrections, if we don't need to move community corrections. So that's where I said.
I don't think we're over anything on our budget with the jail.
I don't think we were ever anticipating spending $39 million. So I don't want to say over budget, but we were not expecting to spend that amount.
Yeah.
So I guess you're correct.
Definitely respectfully disagree that we're not over budget, but I get what you're saying. I'm just saying, if we invest in the community corrections building and it can get us through another 15, even 20 years, the land that was purchased would allow for another building site. But as I went through the Columbia City Board of Zoning Appeals and the Columbia City Planning Commission, both of those bodies made it clear that if we ever intended to build a new community corrections facility on that land, that we would need an additional entrance. And that's embedded in the language that they approved. It is true that it was approved, the plan was approved with a pole building or some sort of storage building for not only sheriff's department's equipment, but also maybe some maintenance equipment and that sort of thing. So that aside, we're talking about the potential for, forward thinking out 20 years, the jail bond will have been paid. And at that time, the life of community corrections could potentially have ended. So if we were going to use that additional building site on that property, we would have to have that additional entrance. And I have no idea what will happen between now and 20 years from now. There could be other potential entrances available to us by that time. I don't know. But I do know that a purchase today will be, I believe, will be less than a purchase 20 years down the road. And I would like to, make things a little bit easier for the commissioners 20 years down the road, if at all possible, and for council, instead of putting them in those difficult places or tight places where they can't do what they would like to do because somebody 20 years prior didn't buy an additional entrance.
I guess I would say I'm undecided on the need for an additional entrance, but I've got lifelong friendship with Artie Schrader, who's well known in the real estate world. And I spoke to him on what ballpark idea of what these appraisals could cost. And the number he gave me back was much more palatable than what I had anticipated for these appraisals. So I'm not opposed to getting a couple of appraisals to see if it's even feasible, and then making a decision whether to move forward based on those appraisals.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? I'll second the motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by raising the right hand. Opposed, the same. That passes 2-1. So we will engage county council on funding for 2 appraisals. The next item on the agenda is a BakerTilly scope of work agreement.
And the first is to continue to allow them to assist with budget questions that we've had.
Yeah, so I know that the intent last year was because you were new, everybody's kind of new in their roles. And so we wanted to engage with BakerTilly so that we could ask questions and get walked through the process. So my question is, do we have some kind of end in sight? Like, is there, like, I'm fine with another year, but are we working toward winning ourselves to get?
Oh, absolutely. And I've worked with her just minimal, and a lot of that has been in regards to your guys' plan that you updated. That's been very helpful too, to allow for us to use as reference. So I think if we continue to do that, which I think you guys have spoke that that's what you want to do, it's going to be very minimal if even needing to use them in the future for this piece.
Do you know what the spend was in 20, well, I guess we're not done yet, are we? Because it's about 23, so we don't.
I can get you that information though.
Yeah. Have you guys had a chance to review this book before? Any questions for Tiffany?
I have no issue with it, but I think I echo what you said. You know, at some point, not using them, because I do know you're brand new, so they were very valuable.
And it would just be in that advisement role. I mean, of course, we still want to use BakerTilly for a number of things, including our comprehensive financial plan and that sort of thing. It's nothing against BakerTilly. It's just at some point, if we can wean ourselves from just this portion of the agreement. So I would entertain a motion to approve the scope of work agreement.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by raising the right hand. That passes unanimously. This just requires one signature. And the next item on the agenda is the Peterson consulting agreement for capital asset. Do you want to speak to this as well?
Sure, I can. So the county is, I wouldn't say mandated, but advised to have a capital asset report. We've used Peterson for as far back as I know. They basically take all the information that we get them for each department, and they help us track the vehicles, equipment, things like that, land, right-of-ways. They work with highway department on right-of-ways and land, and they give us a value that we have to submit each year for our annual financial report. So this kind of does a compile of that. We'll be able to do for 2023.
Any questions for Tiffany? Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by raising the right hand. Opposed, the same, and that passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda today is a trail discussion with Chip Hill from the city of Columbia City.
How you doing? I'm Chip Hill, Community Development Director for the city. Since I started with the city, I've been tasked with getting a trail to the high school. Probably 4 years ago, we met, Ryan Daniel and I met with past commissioners, and they gave us a blessing, and we've been in different contact with the different highway superintendents and went through. We're down to like 85% right now. I'm bringing to you two different options. I have one that I'm hugely in favor of and one that I'm not hugely in favor of, but I brought, this would be the salt barn right here. And so it's salt barn right here, or right over here. So the trails go down along the salt barn and split Brayton property and salt barn. I'm coming to you guys to ask which trail you would like to preferably see that would go in front of you.
Chip, why don't you talk a little bit about the differences?
So the huge difference is, if you go this trail, which does not take up any of your property, this is the side profile going down along the salt barn. So it's a 15-foot drop from here to here. And so every 15 foot, they have to put in a little pad. So I have little pads every 15 feet going down. And so that's why we'd like to go with option number two. It's option number two. I did not print that all. The cameras get on. Have you ever noticed me that when cameras get on, I get a little?
Yes, I can tell.
Yes. So I'll pull up option two. I didn't get the president board. So there's what option two, if you get the little score like, that's what that would look like versus this. Option two honestly would be quite a bit cheaper for the taxpayers in this. I personally would like to see option two, bringing it. I was thinking about just bringing one option for you, but I thought I'd be honest and bring both options and let you guys decide.
I just knew I'd get you to tip your hand.
Yeah.
And find out what your preference was.
Preference for taxpayers would be option two. Because option two, we have, if we go back to these boards, option two, we only have one crossover of the line street, where option one, we have to cross Weston Drive and then cross over Line Street. So we're eliminating that crossover.
Yeah, I think that's a big difference.
Mhm. And we can gain a lot of elevation by, swooping it down too. So.
You want to say it?
That's all I have.
So what do you need from us today?
Just the blessing to do option two. And then we'll go out to bid this fall and high school will have a trail plan. So.
Chip, at some point, then we'll do like a dedicated easement or something with the legal, that's ultimately where you guys will have to sign off on something, is the county will have to grant the easement for the trail.
Mhm.
So before they have it all drawn up, they want to make
Yeah.
sure you guys are okay with it.
Yeah.
I
I mean, of course, I want to say you have my blessing. We haven't consulted with the highway director.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
and I don't know, I mean, we can move forward and give the blessing, but it might be wiser for us to just meet with Ryan and maybe include Brad and just make sure
Okay.
before
Okay.
we say do it.
Sounds good. I'll be back in 2 weeks.
Can you
Okay.
reach out to him?
Yeah.
Okay.
We could even maybe approve it contingent on
Yeah.
our conversation, but Ryan has left to go back to work, and I'd be comfortable with that. Matt, would you be comfortable with that?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, Brad's sick today too, so you can't.
Yeah, we can
Okay,
just
save you a trip
approve
back.
it or
Okay.
give the nod.
I'll reach out.
Brad and Ryan would both probably need to look at it.
Yeah,
I can.
we'll just assign them as like a second level of approval.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
What do you think?
I'll make a motion to approve option two for the trail leading to the high school contingent upon approval of the highway director and the county engineer.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. And that passes unanimously. Thank you, Chip.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda today is the Indiana DNR grant award. We were awarded a 50% matching grant, $50,000 for the project or projects that we're doing at the Thomas R. Marshall Home Arm Museum. And so I believe, and Tiffany, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we'll need to accept the grant and of course also vote on the remaining balance. It was already approved.
Approved budget for 20.
So at this point, we're just accepting this award.
I have reviewed the grant agreement and it looks fine, so.
I would make a motion to accept the Indiana DNR grant for the Thomas Marshall House.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? And then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, the same, and that's passed unanimously. Same place to sign there.
Just in between where it says signature and completed.
Okay, we do have a facilities request that I think I passed down.
Yeah.
Somebody would like to read that.
It's from Nikki Keister with the Columbia City Connect. They would like to use the courthouse lawn for a movie on the square after First Fridays on September 1st, 2023 from 9 to 11:30 p.m. And she estimates approximate number of participants would be 250 to 500 people.
Okay, any questions about the facilities request?
I have no issues. I know that they've done it for a number of years and the community really enjoys it. I would make a motion to approve the facilities request as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. That passes unanimously. In addition to our regular agenda, there's also an agreement for JABS. JABS is the audio visual program they use in the courtrooms. And this would be an extended warranty on the equipment and support agreement on the equipment that the commissioners paid to have installed 2 years ago. Okay. And so I know that, Matt, you've had a chance to review this. Is there anything to make note of? Pretty standard?
Yeah, it seems pretty standard to me. It's just a continuation of, I think, what's already in place too, so.
Yeah.
Did the fee go up? I believe it was $12,000 last year.
It looks like $12,873 for the maintenance.
I know it's something we need and they use it every day. I would make a motion to approve the JABS agreement.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Where do we pay for that from?
I think they put it in their budget. for each.
Gotcha. They just need us to approve the agreement because commissioners approve agreements. Yeah, so I have a motion and a second, and I will call for a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. And opposed the same, and that passes unanimously. Oh, it's nice for the rest out. Okay, the next item on the agenda today is payroll and accounts payable claims.
It's Friday afternoon. Commissioner Banks and myself had the opportunity to go out and go through claims in the auditor's office, and everything looked to be standard, and there were no concerns from my end.
I saw none.
So I move to approve claims.
Accounts payable.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve accounts payable. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. And that passes unanimously.
We also had the time to look through payroll, and that looked to be in order as well. So I move to approve payroll.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve payroll. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by raising the right hand. And that passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is previous meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the previous meeting minutes?
I'd make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as presented.
Okay, I will second the motion. And call for the vote. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, the same. And one abstention. He wouldn't sign.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, we've made it to public comment. So I will open the floor for any public comment. We'll allow for 3 minutes per person to come forward and speak. And when you do, please name yourself and let us know who you are for the minutes.
Hello, my name is Savannah Fettig, and I appreciate you all giving me the grace to speak on this behalf. I'm coming here today in reference to your guys' letter dated June 22nd. I'm not sure if that's ringing a bell to you. That was a letter to the public about the Peabody Public Library and the, I'm breaking here, in the Camp Whitley situation. I moved here May 26th, just before all this happened. So I have a letter that you all have received. I sent it to you. I'm assuming you all have read it, but I did not receive a response, so I'm here to speak on that. So you wrote a letter contradicting yourselves in the lines that stated the Whitley County Board of Commissioners support the right for everyone to be treated with fairness, dignity, and respect, which led me to believe that you were issuing a letter of support for the LGBTIA plus community of Whitley County. Instead, in the second sentence, you go on to say, we do not support the promotion of sexuality being displayed at the Peabody Public Library and feel it is the responsibility of parents to provide the children with sexual education, not the library, summer camps, or any other public entities. That breaks my heart. We moved here from a city to go back to a small town where we both, my wife and I, grew up. We found Columbia City as a home. We were very excited. From my understanding, this letter was released due to Camp Whitley's application process, as well as the Peabody Public Library display that stated reading with pride. I'm not going to touch on Camp Whitley's application today. However, I do want to speak on what LGBTQI plus pride is and why it is so important. On June 28th, 1969, well before I was born, maybe you as well, the New York City Police Department raided the Stonewall Inn, located in Greenwich Village, in an attempt to arrest people for their sexual orientation. It was quite common for someone to be arrested for their sexual orientation. They typically raided gay bars. 1 year later, June 28th, 1970, the first Pride marches took place in San Francisco, Chicago, and New York. Pride Month has since then been established and celebrated year after year as we honor those who fought hard for our rights. People lost their lives beyond being arrested. LGBTIA plus pride is not sexual education, as you mentioned in your statement. The true definition of pride is a promotion of the self-affirmation, dignity, equality, and increased visibility of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people of a social group. I hope this letter brings pride education to each of you, and you soon realize that Whitley County has several LGBTIA families in your community. And I have learned that myself just recently because I am standing up for my rights, my wife's rights, our future children's rights. And I'm telling you right now, the people that have come to me and said, thank you for what you're doing for our community, it breaks my heart. Truly breaks my heart. It's disheartening to read that the elected officials have made the public comment while many community members remain closeted, including youth who continue to live in fear for expressing who they truly are because of public comments such as the letter you release. Again, we've only been here for a few months, and I have received numerous messages from community members expressing how much we mean to them because their child has come to them and been like, wow, I really appreciate having somebody that's standing up for my rights and showing me that it's okay to be who I am. We are not sickening, we are not ill. We are community members just like you guys. Government officials, nurses, health teachers, factory workers, you can go on. So why I'm here today is just to explain to the people, the community members, that for those of you who are struggling to find pride in yourself, there's a very large support system cheering you on. I hope that one day we can all love each other just so you don't see us for our sexual orientation. We are much more than that. And I hope that your guys' letter, I hope that maybe this and seeing the people that are here today shows you that we are community members. And I hope that you realize that we are not here to be used for political gain if that's what it was. We're here and this is our community. And I'm not alone. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else today for public comment?
Hi, I'm Shannon Clark, lifelong resident, born and raised here in Whitley County. 4-H, First Church of God, Bear Lake, Camp Whitley. All my life I've been here. What I want to know is what was the purpose of your letter over things over which you have no jurisdiction, just to express your disapproval of homosexuality in our community. Can't have it. Cannot have it for the children, for the sake of the children, right? There are 44 attempted suicides in Whitley County by LGBTQ youth this year. You are hurting children. This is the reality of it. You are breaking up families. You are helping these parents who need help in guiding their children say, no, my elected officials say you're wrong to their children. You're not doing any good by this, and you know it. It's a political score to ride this wave, whatever, but you are affecting real people in our county, real children. Don't tell me this is to protect the children. You can walk your child past a display at the library if you have any control over them whatsoever. Easy peasy. I'm not even gonna start on the Camp Whitley thing. You were made an appointment to have a phone call to discuss all questions and concerns. It was not answered or returned. No one contacted us other than maybe a pointed Facebook question. Summer camps, this is not Washington, DC. We know what you're talking about. I'm ashamed. I am heartbroken over this, over what you have done to our community. I think you owe us all a great apology. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Leanne Facer. It's interesting because Shannon and I are here, but there are so many people that are like us that are business owners and work here that are too afraid to express their political opinions towards gay, how we support gays and things like that. And I know I've lost clientele because of it and because of my stand with George Floyd and things like that. But a lot of people come to me because I do speak out. And just like Shannon said, those people that that are leaning on the library to take away funding, or they want you to make these statements like that, they obviously are asking you to parent their children. Because when mine are little, I can take them, you know? And my daughter is 33, and they were walking to my house, and there was a sign that Paige read, and it said, "Stop abortion." And she asked her mom what that was, 9 years old. And Jasmine, that's a very adult thing. But we've got children that are readers. And Jasmine kind of started to think about an age-appropriate response, because that's all you need, an age-appropriate response to something like that. But Paige said, oh, it's okay, right? It's probably something that I don't need to know right now. She already knew. So, and also about these displays, you have people that, like, when you're on TV, you're not making a legislative, if it's just the facts of the laws, you're bringing theology in. And that's the problem there, is it's your answers don't come from law, because we're not supposed to discriminate. They come from theology, which is a big part of that. And I know that you mentioned on TV about what your constituents want. The problem is the constituents like this have to stay undercover, but you guys represent them. And there's a lot of them there, and it was very hurtful. So I don't know, you know, there's other things that people don't, you know, a Disney display, but you know, that's sorcery and magic, you know, but theologically people want to point at gays and less human beings working and having families, you know, and one thankful thing that happened is most likely there were a lot of children and people that found out in their library they can read about people like them that invented things, that were great for things, that we honor, people in history that we didn't know were gay. So it did have a good effect, But you have to remember, this is about people, and making a statement like that, it was very hurtful. And Shannon and I aren't the only ones, but we've got a group, and hopefully we can make that point in the county. So
Okay.
thanks for your time.
Anyone else today?
Hi, I'm Ashley Bettig. I'm Savannah's wife, as she said, and like she said, we just moved here Memorial Day weekend, which days later kicked off Pride. But we moved to a small town because we're from a small town. We live in a crime-ridden city where we did not want to bring children into our home. We wanted to be where we grew up, somewhere small with small town values. The difference is small town values should be including everybody who steps into it. We are what most people consider transplants here because we just got here. I grew up in Decatur, so my high school was very small. She grew up in another small town, very small. Transparency needs to happen. There's nothing about the LGBT community that is being shoved in people's faces. I personally want to be able to go to First Friday and hold my wife's hand. That is not something that I feel safe doing here. There is absolutely no reason that if I meet her for lunch on her lunch break, that I shouldn't be able to give her a kiss goodbye before she leaves and I end up going to work as well. That's not something that I feel safe doing here. If you see us in town, if you see us at Kroger or at First Friday, which we attend all the time, you will not see us walking hand in hand as a couple. You will see us walking beside each other and typically not even that close to one another. We don't acknowledge that we are together in public because that's not something that feels safe here. LGBTQ couples are 10 times more likely to foster and adopt children. We are on the road to this foster licensing ourselves. There is, and I believe this statistic is a year ago, I'm sure that the number is higher now, but there are 30% of kids in our foster system who identify as LGBT. And of that 30%, 42% of them have reported not being treated the same. And as it was already said, the amount of suicide attempts and succeeds, it's astronomically high. Shoving someone in a closet, in a corner, because you don't agree with how they live their life is not making the children in this community or any community feel safe. So Pride is not a 1 month thing. It is an every single day thing because kids and every future generation and the adults here who have lived closeted need to know that there are safe places here, that this is their home and they can be who they are. So the contradictory statement of elected officials is putting government where it shouldn't be. It's relationships. It's not your place to say that you support it, but then you don't, because it makes people not want to be who they are. And there are people here who want to leave because they don't feel safe. Their children don't feel safe. Someone's child has come out, but they are bullied. That's not something that's being looked over. People want to leave here because of it. And we just want to thrive and exist just as everybody else does. We're, like she said, like we're in every sort of industry here. Like I work at Parkview, which is hugely supportive. We're in every industry here, and we're not trying to shove anything in anybody's faces. We just want to live our lives just like everybody else.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward for public comment? Matt, do you have anything to add?
I feel like we need to probably table the public hearing. If we're not going to take action, some formal motion to table that because it's just sitting there at this point. And so if that's
we closed the public hearing.
but I mean, I guess I'm assuming people are going to ask questions. What are we doing? And so I'm just, when I looked at the statute, it says we have to have the hearing within 30 days. We've done that. It doesn't say when you have to make a decision. And I guess I'm just thinking in terms of some action that says we're going to take action. And maybe tabling it is maybe not the right word.
Sure.
But because there's no formal motion. It just, when I read the statute, it suggests we have to do the hearing in 30 days and then do something. And that something is hanging without some motion to say.
Oftentimes we have public hearings and then come back at a later date to make a decision, which I think is what we're doing here.
Yeah.
But you're saying you'd like to know when that action will take place.
I'm guessing the public would. I don't, it doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
To the extent that the remonstrancers and or the petitioners, and I was just thinking in terms of tabling it, I guess is the way we would do it. That's your right. It's not really a tabling it. It's just.
Sure.
So
I don't think we have to do anything. And I know you guys haven't decided, you want to go out and look at it, you know, and you're not going to be here for the next meeting. So
right.
Realistically, we're probably.
You know, the public hearing did raise a lot of questions, and I think that both sides have validity in their concerns. I'm not prepared to make any action at all today. And as you said, I'll be absent at the next meeting. So ideally, we would wait until our first meeting in September to take any action on that. And I think that allows everyone, you know, a full month to determine, you know, how they feel would be best.
Yeah.
In the best interest of the county and its constituents.
And to get direction from Brad about, I mean, it seems like the map has changed.
Yeah, there's a few different proposals floating around.
Yeah, that was all I was suggesting is.
Sure, yeah.
They
so
probably
we
want
can
to
have
know,
that on
they want to know when.
our first meeting in September. Yeah, that'd be great. Tiffany, do you have anything to add?
I do not.
Rob?
I have nothing.
Teresa?
just my reminder that I'll tell everyone to take the internet speed test at your home so we can challenge those SCC maps. So Whitley County is in a better position to receive a lot of the grant dollars that will be coming down over the next year and a half. If you'd like to take matters in your own hands for your residents, there's also a program called the Indiana Connectivity Program. You go ahead and you take the test, all the information's there, you fill it out. If you meet the qualifications for the uploading speed and downloading speed, if they're below the requirements, you can apply to get fiber at your home. What that does is your address lights up on a map that you do qualify. Different providers will then bid on your residence. And then typically the time, from what I've heard from the Office of Community and Rural Affairs, is it's 6 to 12 months to see any movement on that. But that's another option. So, and these are located at both entrances if you want to scan the QR code. So that would be my ask. That's it.
Just a couple things. Did you get this letter about opioid settlement funds as well, or did it just come to us? So this is just our notice that we're receiving this year's amount will be $26,104.75 in restricted and $8,859.25 in unrestricted. And again, that's the opioid settlement funds, which that is a sharp decrease from the initial payments, but we knew we knew up front that first payment was going to be large and then they were going to trickle down. So, and then just in response to some of the things that we've heard today in public comment, I'll start by saying I'm sorry that you feel the way that you feel as a response or as a result of the letter. Sincerely, I'm not just saying that. I'm sorry you feel that way. I want to make sure that everyone knows that Whitley County government has 4 appointments to the board at the library. The spirit or intent of that letter was to say the library is an educational resource, not somewhere to promote religious or political or any other agenda, but to serve as an educational resource. And I would look for and expect the library to have content on the shelves that's contrary to anything that I might believe to be true. But if I, in any form or fashion, wanted to go learn something about something, I would expect the library to have that content. The display to me appeared to be somewhat of an in-your-face sort of display. We heard from you today that you don't believe that's the case. And so, I think we can sort of agree to disagree on that. But again, I believe firmly that the library should not be acting politically, religiously, any of those things. Like, they are an educational resource, and I believe they should stay in their lane and be the educational resource that they're designed to be, to have the content available for people to learn about anything that they want to learn about. And I agree with some of the things that were said about parenting. I do think it's parents' responsibility to come alongside their child, and if they don't want them to be exposed to certain content, it is a parent's responsibility to safeguard or protect their child. I would agree with that. So that's what I'll say. And at this time, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.